So as the sector moves towards stronger accountability and transparency on NDPE and DCF commitments, version 6.0 introduces several important changes, and today's session is designed to help you navigate through those updates with clarity and confidence. We structured the agenda to give you a comprehensive overview, beginning with the context behind IRF version 6.0 and diving into key technical updates that affect how the data will be gathered, verified, and reported. We'll also explore how the framework now better reflects the realities of sourcing, especially from more complex supply bases, and highlight the practical guidance and tools available to support your transition. Towards the end, we'll walk you through the latest updates to the reporting templates and point you to additional resources that you can refer back to after today's session. Finally, we've allotted 30 minutes at the end for a Q&A, so if you have any questions as we go along, please feel free to jot them into the chat or the Q&A box at any time. And if you would prefer to ask something privately, you can also direct your question to the panel privately or directly. We'll collect them throughout and make sure that they're all addressed during the discussion time at the end. So with that, let's get started. So what is the Implementation Reporting Framework, or IRF? Next slide, please. The IRF is a monitoring and reporting tool specifically developed for the palm oil sector. Its purpose is to help companies understand and track how their sourcing supports NDPE commitments. That is, no deforestation, no development on peat, and no exploitation of people. It does this by mapping progress across the entire production base, not just a company's own operations, but also scheme smallholders, independent plantations, and independent smallholders. The IRF allows companies to report where volumes sit along a continual progress ranging from known to delivering. This makes it easier for companies to communicate how they're supporting transformation and where action is still needed. Next slide, please. So the move from version 5.8 to 6.0, why was it revised? Earlier versions like version 5.0 were developed when companies were just starting to report our NDPE commitments. The focus was primarily on tracking progress, not necessarily on verifying detailed DCF claims. But now expectations have evolved. Companies have made new DCF commitments linked to 2025 targets, and the sector as a whole has pushed for greater granularity and accuracy in reporting. And version 6.0 reflects that shift. It provides a more rigorous, precise, and credible view of what's happening on the ground. It also aligns with methodologies from leading initiatives, for example, like the Forest Positive Coalition and the Accountability Framework. So overall, there's consistency with broader industry benchmarks. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the phase transition plan. Phase 1 started early this year in January 2025. So companies can still use version 5.8 for reporting 2024 volumes, and at the same time begin testing and preparing to use version 6.0. Guidance documents, narratives, and data verification protocols are scheduled to be finalized and piloted in the first 2 quarters of 2025, so almost exactly where we are right now. Phase 2 begins in January 2026. From that point on, all users should ideally fully switch to version 6.0. Version 5.8 will no longer be accepted, and all reporting, especially for DCF claims, must align with the updated framework. So 2025 is a year of preparation and onboarding, leading to the full implementation in 2026. Next slide, please. How to use the IRF for reporting. So right now, both version 5.8 and version 6.0 of the IRF can be used, but with different purposes. Version 5.8 is still valid for reporting progress towards NDPE commitments, but version 6.0 was introduced to reflect the industry's evolving expectations, especially the need for greater clarity and accountability on reporting on deforestation and conversion-free, or DCF, volumes. Starting January 2026, companies will be recommended to use only version 6.0. So encouraging everybody to download the latest version 6.0 template, which would be expected to finalize in early 2026. There may be additional updates during 2025, so it's important to stay connected through the website. Next slide, please. This slide outlines the criteria for a volume to be classified as deforestation-free, which is a key component in version 6.0. Important to note that this is based on the Consumer Goods Forum Palm Oil Roadmap. So there are multiple pathways to achieve a DF classification, whether through certification, traceability to a known area with negligible risk, or verified assessments either remotely or on the ground. The core requirement is traceability, knowing where the palm oil was produced and verifying that it complies with with deforestation-free criteria. There's also an additional verified deforestation-free VDF category for supply chains that go beyond basic requirements. And finally, any volume that can't meet these conditions falls under not DCF and should trigger engagement and corrective action planning. So now that we've covered background and the purpose of IRF version 6.0, we'll move on to the more technical components. I'll hand over the floor to Sol, who will walk you through these parts.
Great, thank you, Joy. So yeah, before we dive into the more technical updates of this call, we wanted to share a little bit about the refinery list, which is a supporting document that you can find also on the IRF website. This is a document that was developed back in 2022 by a decision of the POCG and the IRF active working group due to the lack of this type of list. Its aim is also to increase the transparency on the presence of the IRF at a global level, and it's updated every year. So if we go to the next slide, we can see the latest update. With the latest update, we have included now in this resource 439 facilities. I say facilities because we include mainly refineries, but there is also crushing kernel plants, oleochemical plants, and a couple of biodiesel plants. And they are found across more than 50 different countries. If we look at the right-hand side of the slide, we see how the uptake of the IRF has changed from last year. We currently have 205 IRF profiles that are publicly available in comparison to last year only having 164. It has been an increase of 22%. And we've also seen a very positive increase on verified profiles. We now have 192 verified profiles, which means a 77% increase in comparison to last year, which was 108 verified profiles. If we go to the next slide, we see that the newest list, as I mentioned, has mainly refineries. And on the lower end, we have KCPs, oleochemical plants, and biodiesel plants. If we go to the next slide, we see that those facilities are mainly found on Indonesia, 101 of them, followed by Malaysia, 89 of them, and then Latin America, we find 54 facilities across different countries, and then we found 193 refineries on the rest of the globe. And if we go to the next slide, we can start diving into the new technical aspects of the IRF 6.0. So let's start with traceability. If we go to the next slide, we see why now version 6.0 includes TTP requirements. This was a decision made by the POCG, more specifically the IRF active working group. And the reason behind this it's because of many different factors. On the one hand, we had external factors such as the pressure from new regulations to demand greater traceability. We also have the factor of enhancing credibility, especially when it comes to DCF claims. So a robust TTP approach was needed. And we also wanted to acknowledge the trader roadmap, which includes the IRF as a tool to demonstrate progress and compliance. So consistency was necessary. In addition to that, we also had some internal factors. Once again, consistency is an important topic. So by including these TTP requirements, we ensure an aligned approach among all the companies that use the IRF to report. And finally, because the IRF is becoming more rigorous, more accurate. We also needed a more granular approach to TTP. So that's the final reason of why this new inclusion. If we go to the next slide, we can see that these TTP requirements are different depending on the source of the FFBs. So there is different requirements for directly managed areas, independent plantations, and independent smallholders. For the lower categories of the IRF, there is no TTP requirement. So for volumes falling into known, awareness, and commitment and starting action, no TTP is required. If we are aiming, which we are, to put our volumes into progressing and delivering, that's when the TTP requirements appear. For directly managed areas, it's required to have full shaped or grid map and polygons for both getting the volumes into progressing and delivering. For independent plantations, this is also required for delivering volumes, but for progressing volumes, GPS point and area suffices. Then for independent smallholders, due to their greater complexity, the requirement is that for progressing volumes, a 50-kilometer radius from the mill is accepted. So we are looking at traceability to production area rather than to plantation. And for delivering volumes from independent smallholders, we require traceability to village or jurisdiction. And if you have TTP, so traceability to plantation, it also would lead the volumes into delivering. Just note that traceability is just one criteria and that it will not directly classify the volumes into delivering. There's other criteria, other allocation criteria that need to be met, that they need to be met in order to get into delivery. If we go to the next slide, we see that now this has been integrated into the template. So you are required to report the percentage of the respective FFB supply bases that are meeting these TTP definitions and requirements. Just to note that there will be a supporting document to help navigate the traceability requirements. It's called the TTP Explainer, and it will be available on the website later this year. And I'll hand over my colleague, Jay. I think.
Thanks, Sol. So the next section will focus on independent smallholders and walk through how independent smallholder volumes are now reported, what's changed, and how companies can demonstrate progress even when full traceability isn't yet possible. So next slide, please. So one of the key changes introduced in IRF version 6.0 is that company profiles are now broken down by supply-based type. Instead of one aggregate figure, we can now distinguish between directly managed areas, independent plantations, and independent smallholders. This breakdown helps give a more accurate picture of where each segment of the supply chain sits in terms of NDPE progress. So using the example below, you can see that the chart on the right that progress is being made across all supply types. For directly managed areas, which make up about 28% of the total supply, 88% of the volumes are already in delivering. Independent plantations, accounting for 31% of the supply, show 56% in delivering and another 23% in progressing. And importantly, independent smallholders, which represent the largest share at 39%, are seeing a real momentum here, with 30% of volumes already at delivering, with another 21% at progressing. This more granular breakdown helps identify where support and intervention are needed, but it also helps recognize areas where progress is happening, even within more complex sourcing arrangements. Also, important to note, in version 6.0, deforestation and peat conversion have been merged into a single reporting category to reflect their shared risk profile and to simplify reporting. Next slide, please. So, questions specific for independent smallholders. One of the biggest challenges we face is traceability for independent smallholders. Many of them are linked through complex networks of intermediaries, dealers, and agents, which make it harder to trace FFB volumes back to the farm level. To address this, IRF version 6.0 introduces 3 specific questions to help assess whether independent smallholder volumes can be allocated to progressing or delivering. And these are: 1, is the volume sourced from a minimum smallholder deforestation, or MSD, area? 2, is there a dealer engagement program in place? And 3, is the volume part of a landscape or supply chain initiative? Important to note that companies must indicate the percentage of independent smallholder volumes that meet each of these criteria. This helps improve transparency and shows where progress is being made, even when full traceability isn't yet possible. Next slide, please. Here's how those 3 questions come together in practice. So this flowchart looks a little complicated, but it shows a decision pathway for determining whether independent smallholder volumes can be classified as delivering in IRF version 6.0. First, companies need TTP data or equivalent traceability systems in place. If that's not available, they need to demonstrate traceability by production area, usually through administrative unit data. Then the 3 checks are applied. Is the area a minimum smallholder deforestation area? Is it linked to a landscape or supply chain initiative? Or is there an equivalent dealer engagement program? If the volume passes through one of these pathways and meets all the core de-risk requirements, it can be considered delivering. If not, but progress can still be demonstrated through dealer or area level efforts, the volume may be classified as progressing. So overall, there are 3 main ways to support independent smallholder volumes to enter delivering, helping to bridge traceability gaps while maintaining credibility and alignment with IRF requirements. Next slide, please. So this sets us up well for the next few sections, which cover the minimum smallholder deforestation layer and the landscape jurisdiction initiatives and the dealer engagement guidance. To go over these sections, I'll hand over to Nikita, who will walk you through these sections.
Thanks a lot, Joy. Hi, everyone. So I'll just explain a little bit more about the 3 pathways that Joy demonstrated in the previous flowchart slide, which are related to the independent smallholder section of the IRF. If you could go to the next slide, please. Thanks. So as Joy already mentioned, it can be quite complex, and there's a lot of challenges to map independent smallholders in Indonesia and Malaysia, especially in mapping, registering, and tracing to farm and plot level. That's why the POCG has recognized the importance to have a just transition towards deforestation-free for independent smallholders, and has analyzed the independent smallholder-driven deforestation in Malaysia and Indonesia and identified administrative areas which have minimal independent smallholder-driven deforestation, or MSD, since the cutoff date of 2015. Essentially, this analysis was done accounting for admin areas which have 95% of total deforestation coming from independent smallholders to be classified as non-MSD or non-minimal smallholder deforestation. And the rest of the 5% of the areas would be classified as MSD or minimal smallholder deforestation. This analysis is currently in its final stages and is available for 2016 to 2022 and is currently being finalized after a period of external validation by companies and stakeholders, and will be updated also for 2023 and 2024. Thanks. So for the purposes of IRF 6.0, the POCG companies can use the MSD layer essentially to report their volumes to be considered as delivering or non-delivering. So as I explained in the previous slide, for the independent smallholder volumes that come from administrative areas, which are classified as minimal smallholder deforestation or MSD, those volumes directly can be categorized under the IRF deforestation and peat as delivering. And for the volumes that come from administrative areas, which are classified as non-MSD or non-minimal smallholder deforestation, can go into, will not be considered as delivering. And for those volumes, there will be need for other risk mitigation measures in place, which we'll look at in the next couple of slides. Thanks. So the next couple of slides will focus on the landscape initiative and dealers engagement guidance, which are the two other pathways that Joy had presented in her flowchart earlier for independent smallholders. So essentially, for the volumes that are coming from areas that are classified as non-MSD or non-minimal smallholder deforestation, as I had mentioned before, they would need additional risk mitigation measures to be in place. These risk mitigation measures can be through landscape initiatives or smallholder programs. We do have the guidance available for landscape initiatives, which was developed by the PPBC subgroup as an approach to recognize these volumes that are coming from landscape initiatives to be considered as delivering, as long as they meet the deforestation risk mitigation criteria. These deforestation risk mitigation criteria are a set of 6 criteria, which ask for evidence of active deforestation risk mitigation and also a reduction in deforestation within a landscape. Can you go to the next slide, please? Thanks. So why would this pathway be useful? Essentially, many landscapes and smallholder programs are already established and have proven to be supporting independent smallholders already. However, in the past, they have not been recognized by volume-based tools like the IRF. Also, this would also be useful for companies to improve their IRF scores for independent smallholder volumes and provide more transparency in their IRF 6.0 post-2025 reporting. And finally, this would also help to ensure smallholder inclusion in the pathway towards deforestation free. There's also additional co-benefits, which are not just related to the IRF, for having landscape and smallholder programs. And this would include future-proofing of sourcing coming from independent smallholders, addressing root causes of deforestation, as well as delivering additional commitments on smallholder-based livelihoods, as well as nature and climate commitments. So finally, this would be the third pathway for independent smallholder volumes, which come from a dealer's engagement. The remaining volumes that are categorized as coming from a non-MSD area, and if they don't fall under a landscape initiative, can be linked to a dealer's engagement. These volumes can be considered to be progressing. This is a third pathway for independent smallholders in the IRF. And if the independent smallholder volumes can be linked as coming from an intermediary or a dealer engagement program, they'll be categorized as progressing. We are also developing the guidance for dealers engagement, which will be shared as well in June, along with the other guidances. And the dealers engagement guidance covers essentially 3 steps, which includes having a minimal control mechanism and traceability requirements, which would include firstly differentiating that the FFB volumes or the fresh fruit bunch volumes come from independent smallholders and not from different types of producers. Secondly, it would be on data collection and volume categorization, which would essentially be to map where the independent smallholder volumes are coming from. And then lastly, it would have a minimum requirement for the intermediary or dealer engagement. Some examples of dealers engagement programs could be training sessions by mills, workshops, training sessions by service providers, buyers, or other supply chain actors. That's it from me on this section. I will pass on to Jake to take you through the template updates.
Thank you, Nikita. Okay, just a reminder, I'm Jake, I'm the technical coordinator. I've been working on the IRF DMP version 6 template. And I'll be giving you a quick update on what's been happening with the latest updates to the templates. So, a quick reminder that last month, on the 16th of April, there was a preview release of the version 6.0 DMP template. This came after a feedback and piloting process. So thank you to everyone who helped input to that. And as a result of this feedback process, a host of changes were suggested and then implemented. And here on this slide, I'm just presenting those changes as a summary. So just to quickly go through them, we had updates to the underlying or reference data sets which are used in the IRF templates, including the universal mill list from Rainforest Alliance, the certification dataset from the Malaysian Sustainable Palm Oil certification, and also there were some template improvements that were made. So in terms of the actual functioning of it, we've had some adjustments to template formulae, some user functionality enhancements, and some bug fixes as well, which some of you had noticed. So all of those are available now, as you'll see here that they're written. And there's also, in the next release of the template, will be a move to mill calculations of the percentage split between smallholder independent plantation and directly managed area production. So that's the split of FFB coming from each of those production sources, which were previously estimates from government statistics, now moving to mill-based calculations. More on that in a second. Okay, so the main impacts of all of these changes is simply that there'll be some recalibrations to the IRF profile compared to the last version 6 template you will have downloaded from the website. So please check the website for the latest update. Okay, so to dive into the individual updates. The Rainforest Alliance Universal Mill List, which is the lookup list to populate the template with mills, has been updated as of December 2024, which is the latest available mill list from Rainforest Alliance. As part of this mill list, there is updated RSPO certification statuses, which are also will be up to date as of that month in December 2024, and that's inherent in the Rainforest Alliance mill list. So they do the lookups on the RSPO website for that. Separately, we've also integrated in the MSPO certification data sets. And we've got more recent data on that because we've just gone to the website more recently, and that's as of April 25. So those three aspects that I've just mentioned there are all will be automatically populated based on when you select the mill from the little module within the template. But a little reminder that the Indonesian certification, so ISPO, ISCC, remain a manual input in the template, which is the same as before. Okay, and then just a small note that some of the MSPO data is being checked by MSPO. We've got the latest data on their website, but we're just being doubly sure on there are some mills which are showing variations compared to the previous data that we had. Okay, and the main impact of all this is that there'll just be the latest available mill lists with certification. So if you take anything away from this, that's what you should take away. Okay, and then quickly moving on to one of the other reference data sets within the templates, we have moved to mill calculations of the splits between smallholders, independent plantations, and directly managed areas for your volumes. In the active working group had indicated preference to move away from the auto-populated government statistics within the templates. So the future template will require you to put in a mill's own calculations or estimates of the split, and that will be integrated in a future release, which will be pre-announced before it happens. So you'll be all aware that it's going to happen. And the main impact of this is that there'll be, because the estimates are done on a mill-by-mill basis, there'll be improved estimates between the different FFB production sources compared to previously. And just quickly to see what that looks like in the templates. So in the previous release, we have on the left the mills are each row, and these are the province and countries in which they're from. And there's a lookup which looks up the government statistics, which are then put into the right here for the split between the different production sourcing areas. In the new template, this will be blank in the next release, and then there'll be the requirement to put in mill estimates here. Okay, and then moving on to formulae adjustments and bug fixes. So other updates to the templates, which are to do with the look and feel and the functioning of the template. So the first one here, template formulae adjustments. There's been some small adjustments to the formulae to improve the allocation of volumes into the various IRF categories. So this is sort of part of the recalibration you might see in some of the volumes compared to previous templates, but those should be enhanced based on previous releases. There's also been some small user functionality enhancements, just revised question wording to improve clarity of questions to aid your understanding, and then also some changes to looks in terms of colors, some changes, updated instructions, and changes to pop-ups in questions and things like that. And then finally, we just had some small bug fixes. Some users had reported issues with the mill list search box module. That's been resolved now. And a couple of other small fixes which should reduce your any frustrations you have with the template not working how you think it should. Okay, and the main impact is you'll have improved interaction with the templates. The template should perform better, and the template and the calculations as well. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you very much. I'll pass over to, I believe it's Joy.
Yes. Thank you, Jake. So before we wrap up, I just want to flag a few key materials that are currently in development and will be made available to support your transition to version 6.0. So next slide, please. So first is the data verification protocol. This will guide verification bodies and data aggregators on the independent verification process for IRF data. The draft version is already in circulation, and a finalized version will follow later this year. Next is the user template and guidance for IRF Deforestation and Peat version 6.0. This is the actual reporting template you'll be using with embedded guidance built in. This helps reduce confusion and ensures consistent reporting across the board. We also have a TTP explainer, like Sol mentioned. This is especially helpful for understanding the TTP requirements in version 6.0. And finally, there's a transition narrative. So this is a summary document that companies can use both internally and externally to explain what's changed in version 6.0 and why. It outlines the rationale behind the update, and it helps align internal teams and external partners around the shift. Next slide, please. Alongside those materials that are upcoming, there are a few ongoing resources available to help you access support and stay updated now. First, and most importantly, is the IRF website. This is where you can find the latest version of IRF version 6.0 template, plus supporting technical documents. You could either visit the website listed below, or you can scan the QR code to access it directly. We'll also be releasing a video walkthrough in June. This will take you through the structural and technical changes in version 6.0 step by step, and it's a great option if you're looking for a more guided explanation. A guidance master deck is also on the way, which is more of a complementary hands-on, like a physical version to the video walkthrough, and it'll serve as your go-to reference for version 6.0. It includes all the background context, some examples, definitions, and a walkthrough example that was discussed, that we went through in the video walkthrough as well. And finally, if you have any technical issues or questions or queries related to the IRF, you can reach out to the IRF help desk at the email below. Please do not hesitate to get in touch. The help desk is there to support you at any stage. Next slide, please. Well, that brings us to a question and answer portion of today's session. Thank you again for staying with us so far. We've had some